The other day, I had a problem, and I decided to fix it with some code. Today, we're going to be making an interactive audio adjuster GUI application using the new PyQt5 framework. New, well, it's the newest version. And we're going to do all this through interactive code that I'm going to take you guys through step by step, all the way to exporting your application into a finished working app. The best way I feel to learn is learn through doing, right? You have a problem. What problems are you facing? Try and build projects around that. Welcome back, guys, to the channel. Welcome back, guys, for another episode of Code with Josh. For obvious reasons, I'm Josh. Happy to have you guys here. Before I dive into the video, help me out and hit that like button. And if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. That really does help me out in the YouTube algorithm and it helps my channel grow. Now, I'm learning a new language, and a part of the homework I got the other day was I was given this audio file and I had to listen to it and write down everything. And that was really hard for me. I know there's apps online that could do that for me, but I thought, what better way than making my own GUI application and sharing that with you guys? That's what today's video is all about. I'm going to share with you guys and break down how you can use and learn PyQt5, my favorite Python GUI framework. And I'm a big believer, especially in the classroom, by learning something and then choosing something or a problem you face and building a project around that. Okay, so project-based learning I'm all about. So this project was a problem I had that I wanted to tackle, and I did that through a GUI application. Guys, the first link in the description is my weekly Python newsletter that I have content coming out that breaks down advanced jargon, if you want to call it, into easier bite-sized chunks for you guys. So if you head on down, first link in the description is my Python newsletter, and all the other links are dedicated to you to help you grow in this space. All right, enough chit chat. Let's dive into VS Code and start making our PyQt5 application. All right, guys, so I'm here in a new project inside VS Code. Create a folder, all right? Make that Python file, call it whatever you want to, and we're going to begin with our imports here. Now, sound is a difficult thing to work with because I'm on a Mac. I can use it with different things, or I can use different modules for this. But then I've noticed some of my students, a lot of them when working with sound, there's different packages required for working with it. So today I just wanted to use one right out of the toolbox. All right, so we're using PyQt5, the latest release of PyQt, and there are sound tools in there that I'm going to use here to kind of show you guys how this all works. So first things first, let's import PyQt5. If you don't already have this, right, just open up your terminal. You might have PyQt5, all right? PyQt5 and 6 are so very similar. There's not that many differences. PyQt6, okay? Just run that in your terminal. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tap into their QWidgets module. This module is really all the components that you need for a GUI application. So everything you imagine on the app, you're going to import that here. Now, in order to get an application running, you must have QApplication and QWidget. Okay, those are not optional, mandatory, right? Everything else is based on what your application needs. Now I'm going to move me down actually so you can see all the imports here. So I'm going to use QPushButton. I need that for the buttons. We're going to have text on there. So any text you want on the app is QLabel. All of the files that we load for this are going to load in a list form. That's a QList widget. And then I'm going to be able to select from this list which audio file that we're working with. In order to get our file path, we will do QFile dialog. And then the other bonus here is QSlider. I can adjust the speed of the audio. And then since we're working here, I'm going to import QVBox and QHbox. That's going to help us with our design. So QV is for vertical or a column. QH is horizontal or row, right? Additionally, we need other components from PyQt5. So I'm going to tap into Qt Core. Qt Core is really just their module with a bunch of miscellaneous things. I'm going to use Qt for the alignment of our widgets. I'm going to use QURL and then QTimer. And then lastly, this is a new one that I got working with specifically for this project. I'm going to tap into Qt Multimedia. And we're going to import here Q Media Player and Q Audio Output. All right, that's pretty much all we need for this project. All right, now as a boilerplate to get started, I'm going to store this in a class and I'm going to run it as a class-based application. So let's create a class, call it what you wish, audio app. But every PyQt app runs in the window that we actually see is the Q widget. So I'm going to drop in here Q widget. Let's create a constructor very quickly. So init. The only thing for now is I'm going to activate the Q widget superclass that I put in there. So just like so. And then down here, all of our boilerplate code, right? So if name is in or equal to main, I'm going to create an app equals Q application, Q application, give it an empty list as the argument. I will create my main app. This is equal to the class we created. I would like to show the main app, and then I want my app to execute. That's really it. Okay, I'm going to put me back up top now, just easier to work with. Oh, they all fit still. You can run it, and you should just see a blank screen, okay, unless you get an error, which then we want to check over everything. There we go. Okay, just a blank screen. That's where I'm going to be building this app. This is your canvas, right? So this is the Q widget, okay? That's like the ultimate parent container holding everything. And then all these other widgets, we're going to put these into our application and justify where they go. All right, that's the fun part. I love the design part. So I'm going to close this down. Okay, oops, I ran it twice, so it fired up twice. Okay, so the next part I'm going to create here is, before that actually, let's do the settings. Then we will do the design. Then we will have our event handler to link all the buttons, and then all the other methods. Let's just focus on these for now, okay? Getting organized here, I'm going to create an app called, or a method called settings. Now, the Q widget is known as self because we're inheriting it. So anytime you want to refer to the Q widget, you just use self now that we're in the class. I would like to give my app a title, so set window title. Call it what you want. Audio adjuster. That's my name for it. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say reset. Let's do this one. Set geometry. I'm going to show you two options. You could do set geometry or resize. Now resize takes the width and the height. So that's just the width and the height when the application spawns. The set geometry does the same thing, but it also takes a starting point. Where do you want the app to initially appear on your screen? So for example, an X and Y of 500, then I could do a width and height. So I prefer to use set geometry, right? All we need to do is call that inside init now, because we know that init runs when we create an object, or excuse me, when I run the application, init is the first piece to run. When I run this, okay, so it's a bit off here on the side. I'm going to adjust the X and Y so it's always on the screen when it loads here. To do that, let's just bump out the X to 800. Okay, I'll run that again, see what we're working with here. There we go. I'll keep that here. So my app is going to spawn here on my screen every time. This is the size. We can adjust this later. Okay, so closing things down. Now comes the fun part, is our design. I like to call this init UI. Call it what you wish. Okay, call it design. Doesn't really matter. The first thing that I store in init are I create all the widgets, all the objects that I want to see on my app screen. So for example, a title. Whoops, not window title. I just want title. I'm creating a Q label. This will be text on my screen. I want this to be called audio adjuster. I'm going to create a file list. This is our Q list widget item. This is where all the files are going to appear. I need some buttons now. I need an opener button. This button is I'm gonna click it. I'm gonna be able to access files from my desktop. So I could be like, choose a file. Any text you put inside Q button is the text that you're going to see on the screen. I'm going to have a play button. I am going to have a pause button. I'm going to have a reset button. Let's stick with my naming convention I have going on here. Okay, all of these are going to be Q push buttons. So Q push. I'm going to copy and paste that and just kind of drop that. Pause. I do want to have a resume button too, actually. So let's just say button resume. There we go. Okay, so for the play button, play, right, I'm just going to call it play. Pause is pause, etc., etc. So what I mean by that is I'm just going to say resume and then reset, just like so. So those are all the objects we can see. Since I'm here, okay, well, I'll come back to this, but initially we want to disable these buttons. Right? I don't want to have them here active in the beginning until audio is playing, but let's just get our initial design done. Okay, so we have all the objects except our, our slider. Okay, so this is our Q slider. And I want this to be a horizontal. So notice I'm using Qt. Qt we imported right here from Qt core. This helps with alignment of items. So in PyQt5, it was a little bit different. I'd be like Qt align center or how I want it. But the difference here in PyQt6 is horizontal alignment. Okay, very good. We have this slider object. So now I could set a minimum number. I could come down here and we're going to set a maximum. And then I made this project for myself, right? So I found the right audio speed for this project that I was working with is you could set a value. 100 is normal speed, right? So if I put 100 here, that's just normal playback speed. Minimum, let's say 50, 150 for our maximum. It's kind of up to you what you put in there, right? I'm just assigning all the initial values. And with our slider, we have a few more things, right? So I want to have tick marks on my slider, okay? And I also want to have intervals. So set tick, where is it? Tick interval. And let's say the interval is going to be 10. So 10 every time that we can visually see. You can get more specific than that. And then inside here, we're going to say our Q slider tick position, and we want to put the ticks, you can choose, right? Do you want them on the left? Well, we don't want that because this is a horizontal. So really it's going to be above or below. I'll put below. All right. Very cool. So next up in the process, I've created all the objects we're going to see on the screen. I now want to create a layout. How I like to do this is I like to create a layout called master. This is the ultimate layout holding all the other layouts, could be columns or rows within this, or just the objects. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create my master layout. So it's going to be a column. I am going to have a row in here. So QH box layouts. And then within the row, I'll have a column on the left. And we're going to have a column on the right. Okay, so now we just have to kind of start top to bottom. What do I want to see at the top of my app? Well, at the top of my app, I want to see the title. Okay, then I want to see the row. So I'm going to start by building out the rows first. So let's say column 1. What's inside column 1? I would like to have my file list. All the files are going to appear there. Then we're just going to go with column 2. We're going to go add widget. I'm going to copy this because we're going to use it a lot. And then I'm just going to go top to bottom. I want all my buttons to be here. So self.button opener, self.button play, self.button pause. Okay, so I'm just inserting these in the order that I want them to appear in the application. So after pause, let's say like resume, that one. And then our final one is going to be self.button reset. Cool, just like that. So all of those are in column 2. Very good. The last thing I want to put here is actually, let's put our slider here under the title. So let's take our master, let's add widget. Notice that the slider is not inside the columns. It's just going to be, it's not inside the row that has the columns. It's inside our main column. Okay, so I'm going to say slider, just like so. Great. So now everything is either added to our master column or these sub columns. And these sub columns need a parent, and they're going to go inside the row. So I'm going to take my row, and we want to add a layout together. So anytime you want to add 2 layouts together, you cannot say add widget. We need to use add layout. What's going to go on the left of row? Well, column 1. Then we say add layout, column 2. Now that we have both of those, really all you need to do is give your row to the main layout. So I'm going to say self.master. I would like to add a layout, and I'm going to add the row. And then who do we give the master layout to? Who's the ultimate parent container? The Q widget, myself, right? So self.set the final layout to become our master layout. That's really it. Okay, if I go up here, call your method first, self.init UI. Let's give it a check, see how it looks. Okay, through an error, that's fine. So main audio app, it is called audio app. Init UI, self.master, self.title. QV box. Did I say something wrong? I mean, I must have. Self.master, what are we doing? We are going to add the widget. There we go. Okay. Voila, look at that. That's the rough sketch of the app. Okay, and these buttons, I want this to be significantly smaller actually, but we will adjust that towards the end. I want the cue list to be smaller, the buttons are going to be bigger, just to bring more pop to our application. All right, great. Let's do some other setup techniques. Guys, if you're getting value from this video, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe. That really does help me out, and I hope you're enjoying this content. Drop a comment and let me know your thoughts. So I'm going to complete this init UI so we don't have to come back to it. I mentioned that these buttons are going to be disabled in the beginning because I shouldn't really have access to them. So all we have to do for that is I'm going to start with button pause. Pause, we can just say set disabled is equal to true. That's really it. I'm going to copy these to save some time. We need it 2 more times. We have our pause button. We can't resume unless we're already pausing the audio. And then we can't reset unless we're playing the audio. Okay, so that just takes care of that. Okay, so deactivate buttons for now. Cool. Additionally, the slider, I want to be able to see the speed that it's at, and I want that to be broadcast onto the application. So I'm actually going to create a label for that. Let's say like self.slider text is equal to a Q label. It's just going to be text. Initially, let's just say speed is at 100% or 100 speed, normal speed. Okay. I'm going to take my slider text that we did, and I'm going to set the alignment. And we're going to tap into Qt here. We are going to say alignment flag and then alignment center. There we go, align center. Okay, so I have these two. I need to get these next to my slider now. To do that, let's just get the slider into its own layout. And let's say the slider is going to be in its own row. And then what we can do here is let's say slider layout dot add widget. I'm going to say self slider text. And then next to it, we're going to add the slider. So add widget self dot slider. That's good. The only thing we have to change here now is where I added this, we are going to say instead of add widget, we're going to add layout because we just made a layout for that. So slider layout. Okay. Let's see how that looks. Is it what I'm aiming for? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so everything's good. Everything's working. And notice that when I move this, I want this number to change. We'll write a function for that later. You can see these two are disabled, right? We only have access to these two. Exactly how we want it, guys. This is amazing. Okay, so for now, our init UI is pretty much done. So I'm gonna close these. Settings is gone. Init UI is done. Okay. I will create this. Nothing's gonna go in it now, but event handler. I'm going to put pass, and I'm going to call it so we don't have to worry about it later. Event handler. Okay, wonderful. When I program a button to a function, that is where these are going to go. All right, first up, let's change the slider speed label. All right, so when I move that slider, I want that a number to actually show. So I'll just call this update slider. And really in there, I just need like a speed. Okay, so my speed is going to be the initial slider value. Okay, I want to get the value of the slider, and let's just divide that by 100. And then let's take our slider text, and we want to set the text to become something new. Okay, so currently it says speed. And then let's just drop in here our speed that we just made. That's really it. And then we're just going to cut off the speed at the end. I think I had X in there, right? Now here's a great time to actually test out our event handler. So the event for this is when the value is changed. So slider dot value changed. I want to connect to this update method. Update slider. Okay, let's do our due diligence, check to make sure it works. Here we go. Boom, look at that. That's exactly what I want. Okay, our slider's working. That's awesome. All right, let's close that out. Trash my trash can again. I'm going to close that down so I can just begin working on the next one. Less distraction. Okay. We need to do some directory work now. So ideally, we need to access the desktop and open files. All right, so working with the directory, that's why I imported the OS module. And when I click the open button, I want it to open my desktop so I have access to it, so I can choose a folder from that desktop. Okay, so what we can do here is let's create a path. I need a path to link together. Ultimately. And this is when I imported QFile dialog. They have a nifty tool, get existing directory. So I can really just get that. And I'm going to say self. And then what prompt do we want to give them? I'll be like select folder. Okay. Now, if there is a path, if that path is true, I already have one, or this comes back and returns us a value, then I want to display these inside my QList widget. So I'm going to take my current file list and I'm going to clear it. The first time you run the app, it's already cleared, but what happens if you already have a folder open and you choose a new directory? I want to clear it, okay? For every file name in my list directory, okay, we are going to check if the file name ends with MP3. You could do a few things. I could say or, right? Because there's MP3 files. That's the most common. But then we also have a wave. Oops, I just turned off that whole line. We also have wave and OGG. I've only seen that when working with like the Pygame module. So you're welcome to do an OR in there too, but I'm going to keep with MP3 because that's just the standard for our files. I'm going to take my file list and I want to add an item. Okay, so what item do we want to add? I want to add that file name to my list widget. Okay, that's pretty much it. Else, if we did not have a file path, I am going to update it as the base file. So I still want the files to load in a sense. I'm going to create a file. This is going to be our qfile.log as well, but this one is going to be get open file name. Self, and inside there I'll be like select file. That looks good. I guess I could apply a filter to this. As the filter, let's just say audio files MP3. Great. So now if we have a file, so if that is indeed true, right, that returns to us true, we're going to clear our file list again. And we're going to take our file list. Where is my file list? And we're going to add that item back. But this time we're going to add the base name. So OS path base name, giving it our file. Okay. So if you need to pause that, right, pause it, read through, right? I tried to go through each step with you guys. To really connect this, we're just going to come up here and I'm going to say self.button opener. When that button is clicked, I want to connect to our open file. Okay, I'm going to run that. Let's just make sure it works. Boom, there you go. So this pretty much unlocks our desktop. And I could go in here and I could click this folder, open this folder, and you can see, right, I'm learning Vietnamese. So the audio files that I made this project for, these are the audio files I wanted, and they're all loaded here. We can click. Once I click, I now want to be able to play. Okay, that's the next target goal for us. So let's close that. I'm going to close the file here. All right, so let's come down here and let's work with play the audio file. Now, let's go back up to our init UI real quick. I'm going to open this. At the very, very bottom, I'm going to create some new objects. So we imported some special audio classes from PyQt, and I want to activate those. So I'm going to create one called like audio output. This is going to be equal to our Q audio output class that we imported, right? I'm going to create a media player object, and this is equal to our Q media player. And then we're going to take our media player. Where is it? Media player. I would like to set the audio output to become, what do you think? Self.audio output, that object. That's it. Okay. So I created two new objects with the classes we imported. This is initialized when the app runs. And then we're taking our media player and we're going to play, ideally, this audio output. Okay. So this method now, this is a longer method. All right. Audio is weird, right? So I've used things like a sound device. I was playing with speech recognition. And there's a few things. On Mac, it's pretty straightforward, my imports. On Windows, there's a lot of other setups that are rather infuriating. And so to avoid that, I'm just using the PyQt fundamentals, but they do a great job. So I'm going to build it out with that. I'm going to create this method, and it's going to be called play audio. And the first thing I need to do is I need to check if I choose an audio file from my QList widget. So to do this, I can take my file list, and they have a method called selected items. Right? So it's a Boolean. Is it true or false? If I click one from the QList widget, this is true. So I have a file to work with. Let's determine the file name. So what's the name of the file? And to do that, we're pretty much going to do the same thing I have there above, file with selected items. But I want to get the first item. There's only one item ever selected, but I'm going to index that by 0. And then we want to get the text of that. Okay, so I have a file name. Now I need to connect it to some kind of folder path, almost like we generated before. So when we run the app, let me run this so I can explain. It's going to throw an error. So let's I'll just say X. That'll take care of that error. X is undefined, so no, it won't actually take care of that error. Let's just delete that for now. When I run this, we're going to have to choose the folder twice, because when I was building out this app, I noticed an issue. So when I click Choose File, I'm going to go to Desktop, Audio, Open. Okay. Originally, it had the whole path in here, and that's just, it doesn't look good. It was confusing to me. So I removed the starting part of the path, but then to build out the actual audio for it to play, I still needed the path. So when I click one of these and I click play, it's going to have me choose the folder one more time just to build that path. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. So I'm going to create my folder path. And once again, qfile dialog dot get existing directory inside their self. We're just going to say select folder, like so. Okay, let me close that out. Cool. We can get a file path now, and the file path is just os.path.join. I want to join together the folder path with my file name. And then the file URL is, I'm going to use, we imported QRL class. And this is going to be from, is it going to tell me? From local? From local file, there it is. And from local file, I can pass in the file path. Cool, so I have a file, it's ready to play. Let's take our media player object I created above, and we're going to set the source for it to play as our file URL. I can take my media player, okay, so I've set the source to the file, and we're going to set playback rate. And the playback rate, this is the slider value. So really, I could just go up here and copy this. That's how fast it's going to be playing. It's going to match the slider value. Alrighty, so we're matching the slider value. That looks good. Let's just make sure, because this could change. I'll make that a float. And then we're going to take our media player and we're going to play the audio file. Pretty cool. That's it. Now that we have all of these, I'm going to go up here. Do I still have them? Yeah, I have it open. I'm going to take these three. So if the audio is playing, these ones should be enabled. Okay, so button, wait, so let's see here. Button pause, I'm going to change that to say enabled. Okay. Button resume is still disabled. Button reset becomes enabled. And then button play is going to be disabled because it's already playing, right? So it doesn't matter, it shouldn't be there. So true. This is great. So this is playing the audio for us. I'm not connecting this to an event. I'm going to make a method to handle this, okay? But this is where we just did all the directory work at, right? Pretty cool, right? Drop a comment, guys. If you're getting value, hit that like button. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're not already subscribed, what are you doing? Help me out, help my channel grow, and hit that subscribe button, okay? So I'm going to now make the method to, well, play audio. I kind of have play audio. So, well, let me check. I have everything. Let's play it through here, actually. Let's just take that and let's play it. So button play, when the button is clicked, we want to connect. What are we connecting to? Self.play audio. Let's run it. Let's test it. Make sure it's working. There we go. It's asking me for my other path again. That's normal. It's working. I don't expect you to know what this means, okay? But it is working. Pause and reset don't work, so I'm gonna have to build those out. Okay, so let's start with pause. I'm just gonna build out the other ones, connect them all, and then we will run it through essentially. Okay, so I'll create one called pause audio. I'm gonna create one called resume audio. And the last one's going to be reset audio. Whoops. Self. Okay, so as for my pause audio, let's take our media player. Okay, they have a nifty method, you guessed it, pause. Okay, if that's the case, my button pause and resume. So I'm going to take these two here. Button pause becomes disabled. Button resume becomes enabled. That's pretty much it. Okay, we're just switching those around. For this one, I'm just going to actually copy this. It's identical. But this one is going to be play now. Button pause is going to be enabled. And button resume is going to be disabled. Okay. I'll connect these actually real quick just so I don't have to later. Let's take our button play. Nope. Button pause. When it's clicked, we're going to connect to the pause audio. Our next one is when the resume button is clicked. We'll connect that to the resume audio. And I notice now all the events are done. This one, I forgot my A. There we go. Okay, so to reset. When do we reset? Well, we first need to check, is the audio playing, because we want to stop it. So if we take our media player and we say playing, is playing, excuse me, there it is. So if it is playing, we're going to take our media player and we're going to stop it. Okay, so I've handled the first part. We've stopped the media if I want to reset. And I can take my media player and we want to set the position back to 0. Okay. The media player playback rate is still going to match, I could have just copied this right here. We're still matching the slider value. That's not changing. I just wanted to reset it. And then we're going to take our media player and we are going to play the audio at that rate. Okay, ultimately that's what's happening here. All of those buttons, we need to put them back in their original state. So I'm going to copy this one. This just gives me controls to all the buttons. Well, I have reset there, so yeah. Out, out, out. So if I reset the audio and it is playing, enabled is true, resume is disabled, reset, I can leave it as true, button play is going to be disabled. And I mean, while I'm here, let's actually just disable this one too. Okay, just like that. The last thing, to handle any audio issues, I'm going to use a Q timer here, and we're going to basically set a short delay on this. So I'm going to say 100, and I'm just going to create a lambda function, and let's just say self.button reset set enabled, right? Because I just disabled it here, and I want to just wait for a moment before it's enabled again. So I'm just going to say true. Cool. That's great, guys. Let's connect this. Let's test it. Make sure everything is working properly. So if I go up here, let's go into our self.button reset. When it is clicked, we're going to connect to our self.reset audio. Let's give this a test. Let's run it, make sure it's working. Okay, so we're, let me do this first actually. Before I choose a file, let's adjust the audio speed to kind of just check if it's working. So I'm gonna like slow it down, choose a file. Desktop audio open. Let's play this one. Creating the folder path again, that's normal. It's really slow. It's working. Pause. Working. Resume. Reset. Too many arguments. All right, so I do need to sort this out. Let's go to line 143. Where are you at? Let me mark this here. And inside here, playback rate. Okay, let me change this to, wait, I think there's a different method I can use. Set, yeah, let me see if this handles it. So playback rate to set playback rate. I think that might have been my error there. Okay, desktop, audio, open, play, folder path, good, working,
Chào các bạn,
pause,
tôi là
it works.
Chào các bạn.
That's awesome. Let me reset that. Let's change the speed to like really fast. Oops, cancel.
Tôi là Leon, là người Anh.
You heard that, right?
Chào các bạn.
We changed the speed. Pause, bring it down,
Tôi đã sống và làm việc ở
reset.
Hiểu.
Okay, we're using the values for that, guys.
Chào các bạn.
Ah, amazing. Let me stop that. Okay. Let me jump into some styling techniques and how we can just bump this out, or what I did for what I wanted it. Okay. This app was really just made, right? I had a problem. I wanted to fix it, wanted to use code, and I thought, why not make a video for you guys? What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make a style method. Okay, so def style, and I can hold all my styles in here. So we're just using CSS for this. So to do that, I can use set style sheet, and I'm going to put 6 double quotes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Go in the middle of those double quotes, click enter 2 times. Okay, now this is just a big string. I want to, when we target these, okay, we target the class we imported. So for example, QWidget. I want to give QWidget a background color of, I've already picked out a color here. I'm going to follow a color scheme I found that I liked. My push button, so Q push button. Okay, we're going to give that a background color as well. If you've ever worked with CSS, this is the same thing. 5BB9, I have it written down here. C2. Oops, no space. There we go. That's cool. Let's give the button some padding of a 15. Let's puff them out, make them look nicer. I hate rounded edges or sharp edges on buttons, so I typically just add a border radius. And then the initial color of the text is just going to be this. Not black, bit off black. That's fine. I'm going to copy this. Most of it I actually won't even use. When I hover over the button, it works the same way as CSS. I'm going to change out the color here. Let's do a darker shade of blue. So I have here 1A4870 for my darker color. We really don't need these two. And then because it's a darker color, this darkness won't work. I'll just use the background color to make it look nice. Cool. My Q labels, so all the Q labels will take the same color styling. But my title, I want my title to be special. So I need to assign a class, an ID to that, so I can target just the title without targeting any other text, if we can say that. And I do want the title to be in the middle of the screen. So we're going to go up here to our title. Let's take our title, and there's a method called setObjectName. Give it a name, so title. I can refer to that now in my CSS. I'm going to take my title as well, and let's just set the alignment. Qt.alignment, alignment flag is the one I'm after. We're going to say align center. Okay, so now my title in CSS is title. So if I want to target that, it's just like an ID in normal CSS. I can come down here for an ID hashtag and the name of it, title. Now for this title, I just wanted to apply a cool font really. So font family. I chose here, I found this on like W3 Schools, Papyrus. It looked cool. And then the font size, we're just going to bump it up to like 40px. Two more here. Let's take our slider. Okay, let's just apply a slight margin to that. Margin right, excuse me. And then our last one is I'm going to off shade the Q list widget to a slightly different color, or it's going to be the same as the background. Or, well, it can be the same as the background, but the text, I don't want the text to be anything. So 3. That's really it. This method does need called. I'm just going to call it here inside my init UI class method, my init UI method. Let's run that. Boom. All right, I will do one more detail. You see the hover effect occurring, okay? And everything else is disabled. So this is looking really good. This list widget is so big. I would rather the buttons be bigger and the list widget be smaller. So to do that, up here in my row, because those are the only things in my row, we can put integers here. So like 2, and I'll say here like 4. Right? This is a smaller number. This is a bigger number. This will occupy more. If we broke this into 6, this would occupy 2 of the 6 columns, and this would occupy 4 of the 6 columns. Just to show how that looks. A-okay. Guys, if you're getting value, help me out. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe. All right? Our app is pretty much done. Everything's going to still function the same. I now want to create and export this into a desktop application. So to do this, I'm going to clear my terminal. If you haven't done so already, you're going to need to install Pyinstaller. Okay, so you can run that. I already have it. And you may need to export this to your computer's path in order to get it to work. Okay, so export this to the path if you are having troubles with this. But once you're able to type Pyinstaller version and you're able to actually see something appear here like that, you know you're ready to go. Okay, do some research. If you're having problems, it's just exporting this to your computer path. To create an app, all we need to do is type Pyinstaller --one file --windowed. So I am making a windowed GUI application. This just helps out with that. And everything's going to run out of one file. I have one file. The final stage is just type the name of your Python file, app.py, click enter. Let it do its job. You are done. And you can immediately see 2 other folders being built here, as well as a specifications file. It's going to take a few minutes maybe, so let it do its thing. Come back when we're done. Okay, we are done. I'm going to clear that. I'm going to close my terminal. I'm going to open up the folder so you guys can see it here. Okay, so this is the folder right here in VS Code, and you have a build and a dist folder. Double click on the dist folder. This is your app. That's it. Okay. If you want to rename it, you can rename it to audio app, whatever. You can drag this and put it on your desktop, right? You can put it in your toolbar. It is now an app on your computer. Okay. You could email this to people too. In order to run it, it's just like an app. Click it. The first time you try and load the app, it is going to take some time just to build it out, make sure it runs correctly, and then you won't have any issues. Okay, so on the desktop, anytime you want to use the app or you build something, just click it, opens every time. So just wait for it to load. And after less than a minute, there we go. There's my app. You can see I'm not even running it in VS Code, right? But I still have access to everything else I did before. Choose file, desktop, audio, open, choose a file, play the file, connect the folder path again.
Bài 2. Hôm nay
It's working, right?
mưa lớn nên nhiều. Bài 2.
You're done. You now have a working audio adjuster application, and you've learned how to export that as well, which is incredible. We've made it to the end of this GUI application project, and I hope you guys got value. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button, subscribe. That helps my channel and this video reach more people within this wild YouTube algorithm. Guys, and I hope you have an exported app or at least a working app on VS Code. Drop a comment with any questions you might have, as I really do enjoy creating GUI applications. Well guys, that's all for this week's episode of Code with Josh. Until next time, Python crew.